Now, I noticed that Neil Hanvey has been calling on social media today for the referendum bill, which is still hanging about. And this is the thing that the Supreme Court is meant to be ruling on over the next few weeks and months. Neil Hanvey has suggested that that bill should be tabled in Holyrood urgently and voted on and voted into Scottish law, because at the moment there is a majority in the House of Holyrood for independence and for that referendum to take place. No matter what is happening with the Supreme Court at the moment, that could still be done, and it wouldn't affect the decision of the Supreme Court. They might be a bit pissed off that it was being preempted, but on the other hand, actually putting the bill forward in the House and voting it into law would not only be a severe provocation to a very, very chaotic British state, but also it would largely make what the Supreme Court is doing more relevant, because they were saying initially that it really needs to be a bill and it needs to be presented in Holyrood before they would actually give a verdict on it. And actually provoking them to give a verdict on it might be the very thing that actually sets the wheels in motion. As you know, the SNP has already made its own representations to the court. And in those representations, despite the fact that the Lord Advocate, and honestly, I don't know how they can call this woman a Lord Advocate, she put forward what I thought was probably the weakest, most ineffectual case for an independence referendum that I've ever heard. The Scottish Government has had to come in and say, these are the criteria which we apply to this bill. And they are invoking two things. And both of these are, one is the Scottish law, which is part of our constitution, which is the claim of right. And the claim of right itself uses international law, which is the law of self-determination of peoples, to claim the right to be able to vote on the entire future of the country and whether it remains in a treaty with another country. To my mind, this is still a no-brainer. I think Neil Hanvey has the right of it here. We should really be pushing this bill forward in Holyrood now, so that we can accelerate the date of the referendum to any time that we like within the next 12 months. But let's say that we stick with the date of the 19th of October as proposed by the SNP in 2023. That would be the very latest that we would want to have our independence referendum, quite simply because things are going so badly wrong so quickly, and the British state is so busy dithering and examining its navel that it is not watching what is going on in the global markets, its own economy, and the global economy itself. Why not push the whole independence campaign a step further forwards by getting this independence referendum bill through Holyrood, voted into Scots law, and then challenge the Supreme Court to stop it? Because once it is enacted into Scots law, it is a law, and no English law can introduce it, reduce it, overwhelm it, or change it. Once it's there, it's there. And because we're invoking both our claim of right, which is accepted by the United Nations, and because we're invoking our right to self-determination under the United Nations Charter, the British government can do absolutely nothing about that. We can have our vote anytime we liked in the next 12 months. And assuming that we would win it, and it looks like we would, especially based on the rather fulsome new economic plans of the SNP and Green Alliance, then I think we could probably win it with 60% of the vote, which would be a handsome win indeed. And then go on to rejoin the European Union later if we wanted, but in the meantime, join EFTA and start trading again, and have our businesses start exporting and increasing their size and growing the economy and bringing in more people from the European Union into Scotland to help us plug the gap that we have at the moment in terms of manpower for all kinds of different things. There are solutions to everything, and we are sitting around here waiting for the other shoe to drop in London. The problem we have is always waiting for London to do something. We can't wait for another 2 years for a British general election. At the earliest, it would probably be another year away, because whatever Tory gets in as the new Prime Minister cannot be knocked off their perch for another year through a confidence vote. They could, of course, resign like Liz Truss has done, but then again, that was so embarrassing and caused so much chaos and embarrassment for the entire Tory party and Westminster. Even the BBC seemed embarrassed about what was going on. They interviewed the former Italian president this morning, actually, and asked him what it looked like to him from outside. And he said it made him feel very sad and upset to see the United Kingdom in such a mess. And it is a mess. The entire country is in chaos. It has not enough energy, not enough gas, doesn't have enough money, it can't borrow any more money, it doesn't have any exports, it can't export to 27 countries nearby, nobody will give us a trade deal, and it can't even decide who the leader is. Now, do you want to stay in a union with a country that's doing that? Frankly, I think, again, a no-brainer. There is a far better way. And with the, in the newspapers today, the bookies are making independence odds-on favourite. And they now see that voting no in a referendum is the riskiest choice of all, and offering odds against that. So you can see all the evidence that it's there. It's all staring us in the face. Brexit is the killer. This business of the changing Tory leaders and the fact that they can't find themselves a new Prime Minister, nobody wants the job. It's the poison chalice of the United Kingdom at the moment. Nobody wants a referendum. Nobody wants an election. The Labour Party doesn't want to win an election where they are going to have to sort this out. They are much happier just to sit in the background and call for a general election, knowing that it's not going to happen, and watch the Tories floundering around. But our people can't wait any longer. This winter's going to be cold. Nobody's going to have enough heating, lighting, electricity. We're talking about perhaps rolling blackouts in a country with more energy than we can usefully use. It is ridiculous. We need to do something about it now. And why don't we get this law put through Holyrood right now? Because there's no chance we can have a snap general election in Holyrood and win it, because we're not allowed to have a snap general election in Holyrood without 2/3 of a majority in the House, and we can't achieve that numerically because of the gerrymandered system. So Scotland only has this one option. It is a referendum, and we need to legislate for it, regardless of what those old buffers down in the Supreme Court decide. It's not their country. They have no right to decide what we can and cannot vote about. And this is exactly what the problem is. It's democracy. We need to get it back. The only way we can get it back is if we take it back. And that, I guess, is what I'm saying to you today. We need to pressure our own politicians to accelerate the process of the referendum so that we can hold it at the point where it is going to do the maximum amount of good. We're not talking about damaging the United Kingdom. It's doing that to itself. We don't need to damage the United Kingdom. They've already crippled their own economy with Brexit. All we have to do is escape. And to escape, all we have to do is make a little cross on a piece of paper and put it in a box, and then wait. What could be easier? We're not being asked to defend our nation against an aggressive state. We've been given a golden opportunity to just leave and set up afresh and do things the way we want. And why not take it? Anyway, that's it for me today. I'm off to get some teeth drilled now. Thankfully, I'm with an NHS dentist and it doesn't cost me a fortune. If I were in England, I'd be looking at hundreds of pounds for that treatment. But thankfully here in Scotland, our dentists work within the NHS and I can get this subsidised, even if I do have to pay a little bit more if I'm having a crown. So let's be thankful about where we live, but let's remember that we've got the right to vote. Self-determination is built into the UN Charter. All we have to do is invoke that, pass this law in Holyrood, and actually start campaigning on a new date, perhaps bringing it forward into the summer of next year or even the springtime, so that at least we only have to suffer one more winter of this utter chaos that the United Kingdom has descended into. That's it from me today. Have a great weekend. Hopefully I'll see you on Sunday. In the meantime, keep the faith. Bye for now.